So today I'm refuting Alexis, and her main claim was that global warming is the #1 leading cause of destruction on Earth. And she supported this with her secondary claims that global warming is the exclusive result of human activities. Global warming has a negative effect on the planet and its inhabitants, and global warming is slowly depleting the ozone layer. And I'm going to refute this by saying that global warming is caused not just by humans, but also by other natural causes. Global warming's effects are natural, regular, and they are not permanent. And global warming does not adversely affect the ozone. So with the first claim, Alexis talked about how our human industries create pollutions and affect the pollutions go up that affect the ozone, and then create global warming and how there are landfills and everything. However, sources show that there are other sources of carbon dioxide and pollutants that create the effect of global warming, such as volcanoes and wildfires. And according to the British Geological Survey, volcanoes alone release anywhere from 100 to 300 million tons of CO2 each year. And this just goes to show that humans are not the only ones that contribute to global warming. There are other sources of contaminants and pollutants. Also, this claim that global warming is exclusive result of human activities does not really support the main claim that global warming is the #1 leading cause of destruction on Earth. Moving on to the second claim, that global warming has a negative effect on the planet and its inhabitants. Now, the source used originally states that only in conjunction with other stresses on the environment does global warming have a harmful effect on nature. And so by itself, global warming is not that harmful to nature, and this makes it difficult for global warming to actually be the #1 leading cause of destruction on Earth. And while there are negatives to global warming also provides positives to Earth's inhabitants, which include increased fishing seasons, increased vegetation in high altitudes, and winter does also decline as temperatures warm. Moving on to the third claim, that global warming is slowly depleting the ozone layer. Now, while it is commonly believed that the ozone layer and global warming are connected, the data used suggests that global warming is slowly depleting the ozone layer. However, there's little correlation between the two, since as temperatures do continue to rise, the ozone hole, scientists have found, is now shrinking. And that was in an article from the Smithsonian. Research has also now proved that the holes in the ozone are not actually consistent, and they actually appear only during certain times of the year. And during other times of the year, the ozone is complete, and there are no holes in it. This would prove that global warming does not directly affect the ozone layer, and therefore does much less damage to Earth and its inhabitants than previously stated. This just all goes to show that global warming is not caused exclusively by human activities. It does not have just a negative effect on Earth's inhabitants, and it does not deplete the ozone layer.
Okay, the setup is good, the structure is fine. I think that you do a pretty good job on counterclaims and challenges to some of the reasoning issues. You need to do a little bit more challenging the evidence and the reasoning that the advocate's using, but you've got a good counterclaim, like I said, on a couple of those points. On the first point concerning contributions toward global warming, you mentioned some natural sources. You identify volcanoes as being pretty significant. We don't get any information about how many million tons of CO2 are put in the atmosphere annually by all sources, so it's a little bit hard to tell if the 100 to 300 million tons provided by volcanoes is significant or insignificant in contrast to human activity. So it's a good piece of information. It raises some doubts, but it's hard to make a conclusive kind of inference there without some comparative data there, and I think we're missing a little bit of comparative data there. I don't know if the advocate provided that comparative data either, and that would be something that you could point out, that there isn't, the advocate never identifies how much CO2 is put in the atmosphere, how much of it comes from human activity, and that is the thing that is the tipping point that's creating these kinds of problems. So I think that those would be good presses to make, and that's what I was kind of saying. I think you need to do a little bit more in attacking the advocate's reasoning as well as presenting arguments for your counterclaims. The same thing with their evidence. I did think that you did a nice job talking about how there are combinations of things that create these problems, but I didn't really hear much evidence on that particular point. You mentioned potential advantages of global warming, and again, I think you need to cite your information a little bit more definitively there. On the ozone layer argument, you did give us a source citation on this, and you had some good information that suggests that the ozone layer is got no connection to global warming when it comes to the size of the holes that they've observed in the ozone, and that there's some change. So obviously it can't have a relationship. I thought that was a very clear explanation that you provided there. A pretty solid summary at the end of the speech also, and you do a good job speaking to the audience. All right, thank you.